guys, welcome back to Team 6K. This is Undead bringing you another advanced guide. This time we're talking about Dracoslayers. Before we get into the video itself, make sure to leave a like and go ahead and check out our last video, Advanced Guide on Dark Magicians. Alright, so at the beginning of the video, I did call this archetype the Dracoslayer archetype, but technically speaking, there's Dracoslayers and there's Drake Overlords. The Dracoslayers are kind of meant to be the good guys, and the Drake Overlords are meant to be the bad guys. The Dracoslayers have a Pendulum Scale 5 and a Pendulum Scale 3, and the Drake Overlords have a Pendulum Scale 5 and a Pendulum Scale 3 as well. The deck is kind of complicated to understand, so I'll try to go through everything piece by piece so that you understand as best as possible. The Dracoslayers themselves each have pendulum effects that basically allow you to fill up your face-up extra deck by destroying your own scales. Luster Pendulum, the limited one, lets you destroy your other pendulum scale to add another card from your deck to your hand that has the same name as that scale. Master Pendulum, if it is in your pendulum zone, will destroy itself or the card in your other pendulum zone. There's a hidden benefit that will be explained later on in the video. The Drake Overlords, on the other hand, they don't destroy themselves, but Lecter Pendulum will negate your opponent's pendulum monsters, and Vector Pendulum will negate your opponent's pendulum scales. So you might notice by now that since we have 2 scale 3s in the archetype and 2 scale 5s in the archetype, that, you know, we're trying to pendulum summon level 4s. That's essentially what this engine, what this archetype is going for. We're essentially trying to use our archetype to set up a good level 4 pendulum summon across the field. The deck does also, of course, have 3 extra deck monsters. They are pretty good. I'm not gonna lie, they are pretty decent. But at the same time, they aren't enough to facilitate a game plan because none of them are actually interruptions, unfortunately. So since our deck is very good at setting up a level 4 pendulum summon, what we're going to do is make it so that our deck is the best at setting up interruptive rank 4s, using those level 4s that we pendulum summon. To that end, these are the rank 4s that we're going to be playing as our interruptive package. First, we have number 106 Giant Hand. It requires 2 level 4s. During either player's turn, if your opponent activates a monster effect on the field, you can detach both materials from it, your opponent's effect monster. It doesn't even have to be the same monster that activated its effect, and then essentially Giant Hand becomes Fiendish Chain, so it negates that monster's effects while Giant Hand remains on the field, and also that monster can't change its battle position. Then we have Abyss Dweller, great against certain decks, not so great against other decks, but 2 level 4 monsters. Basically, once per turn during the player's turn, you can detach 1 material as a quick effect. For the rest of that turn, your opponent cannot activate cards in their graveyard. Opponent activated a card effect in their graveyard and then you chained Abyss Dweller, it wouldn't work because that effect is already activated. But if you use Abyss Dweller preemptively, then they won't be able to activate for the rest of the turn. Steel Swarm Roach, great against this meta. Level 4 monsters. If your opponent tries to special summon a level 5 or higher monster, you can detach a material to negate that summon, and if you do, destroy that card. And that is not a once per turn. You could negate 2 of your opponent's Mech Knight summons. I saved the best for last, Evils or Lagia. It requires 2 level 4 dinosaurs. And then if a monster would be normal or special summoned, or if a spell trap would be activated, you can detach 2 materials to negate the summon or activation, and then if you do, destroy that card. Because it does require 2 dinosaurs, we are also filling our deck with level 4 pendulum dinosaur monsters. Thankfully, there are 2 pendulum dino monsters that are both level 4, right? And also one of them is a scale 3 and one of them is a scale 5, so it fits perfectly into this deck that's trying to pendulum summon level 4 monsters. Their effects themselves are really relevant to this deck. You can go ahead and read them if you want. Pause on the screen now if you want to read the first one. Pause on the screen now if you want to read the second one. But essentially all they're good for is that they're dinosaurs, they're level 4, and that one of them is a scale 5 and one of them is a scale 3. But you might say, Undead, you only have 6 dinosaurs in your deck. How do you know that you're going to have 2 of them to pendulum summon, right? I agree with you. Planning to summon more than 1 dinosaur to summon my Evils or Lagia, I should probably be playing more than just 6 dinosaurs. And the solution for that problem is Magical Abductor. The benefit of Magical Abductor instead of any other dinosaur is that it can search for any pendulum. Magical Abductor is a level 4 pendulum, which is great for this deck, a scale 3, which is also great for this deck, and also if it's a scale, then any time that a spell card activates, you put a spell counter on it, and then you can remove 3 spell counters from it to search any pendulum. So that could be the dinosaurs, right? But it also could be any other pendulum you want. So usually you might open one find dinosaur and one abductor. Use the abductor to search the other dinosaur. But if you already have 2 dinosaurs, you could use the abductor to search for an eccentric for background removal. You could search for a pendulum scale that you need. You could just search for the effects that you need, you know what I mean? Having the versatility of abductor is better than having another dinosaur, especially considering there are no other dinosaurs in the game that are both level 4 and fit the scale requirements of this deck. You are somewhat new to the pendulum mechanic, or you haven't played very many pendulum decks. All pendulums, if you set them as a scale instead of summoning them as a monster, they count as a spell, and they count as a spell being activated. So activate the abductor in one of your scales, then activate another scale, and it will be counted as a spell. And that is essentially how we're planning to get to 3 spell counters on Magical Abductor. Of course, we do have the actual spells in the deck, but we also have the pendulum scales themselves, which will count as spells. Remember that Master Pendulum, the Dracoslayer, if it's in the pendulum zone, it can destroy itself, and if it destroys itself, then you're going to be able to activate another scale again. Therefore, you're getting more spell counters on your Magical Abductor. In fact, getting 3 spell counters on Magical Abductor is the reason we actually play the skill World of Malice. So, World of Malice begins the duel with Malefic World Set. And if you begin the duel with a deck excluding your extra deck that contains at least 5 Malefic cards with different names, you begin with it activated. But the thing is, we do not want it to be activated, we actually want it to be set. We don't care about what the effect is, we just want it to be a spell that we activate after we have put Abductor on the field. So we have it set. Because of our skill, we activate Abductor, we flip up the field spell because of World of Malice skill, and then we will get a free spell counter because of it. Generally speaking, in most situations, we're going to be using the Abductor to search for a dinosaur to allow us to summon Evil Zoologia. But if we already have the dinosaurs, or if the dinosaurs are not what we need, then we can just very easily use it to search for the scale that we need, to search for the pendulum scale effect that we need, or to search for Archfiend Eccentric. Just a little one-off that I put in there. It's just nice to have a searchable card we can use to destroy our opponent's back row or their monsters. Also, if we happen to open it, we could activate this after activating World of Malice. Therefore, we have 2 spell counters. Then we can use the Eccentric to destroy itself and the field spell. Therefore, we have our scale open again, so we can get our 3rd spell counter. Even though we can use our pendulum monsters as scales to get spell counters on our Abductor, it's good of course to have actual spells, so I do play the one Fossil Dig. It's great to be able to search for any of our dinosaurs, but it's also a spell card that gives us a spell counter. We also have Draco Face Off. We are going to play this regardless of whether or not we play Magical Abductor. It is just such a good card, but it just so happens to also be a spell that gives us a spell counter for Magical Abductor. But in some cases, Magical Abductor is going to get 2 spell counters from the Draco Face Off, and let me tell you why. So first of all, you reveal a Dracoslayer and a Dracoverlord from your deck. So the bad guys, you get 1 good guy and 1 bad guy, right? You get to reveal 1 good guy and 1 bad guy, and then your opponent randomly picks one of them to put in your pendulum zone or special summon. So you get to choose if you put it in your pendulum zone or if you special summon it. And then the other card goes into your extra deck face up. So this is essentially a 2-for-1, because you get 1 card in your extra deck face up to pendulum summon, and then 1 card in your scale. So I might select 1 Master Pendulum, the Dracoslayer, and 1 Vector Pendulum, the Dracoverlord, because they're both scale 3s. Let's say I want a scale 3, I'm going for 2 scale 3s here. So that way, if my opponent wants to give me 1, it doesn't matter which one they give me, I can put it in the scale. If I just so happen to get Dracoslayer in the scale, that doesn't count as an activation itself from the Draco Face-Off because it's being placed there, not activated there. But I can, from the scale, destroy it and activate another scale from my hand, and so therefore, because I'm destroying it there, that's another activation for the Magical Abductor. Then of course, if you want a scale 5, what you would do with the Draco Face-Up is reveal 1 Lecter and 1 Luster. Because of the way that this deck works, we're very often going to be able to pendulum summon 4 monsters, which is going to translate into 2 rank 4s, and we're going to have to look at the opponent to see what kind of deck they're playing. You can somewhat tell what deck the opponent might be playing by looking at their character, and by looking at their character you have a general idea of what deck they might be playing based on the skill that certain decks run. So that is how we're going to decide which rank 4s we're summoning. You almost always want to summon Evils or Lagia because it can at least do something against every deck in the game. But the other ones are a little bit more nuanced. Giant Hand, Abyss Dweller, and Steel's Roach are kind of matchup dependent. So just, do whichever one you feel is best for the given deck that you're playing against. From those interactive Xyz that we also have the, going for game Xyz, number 7 in Malevolent Sin, 2 level 4s, detach a material, target your opponent's monster, banish it until your opponent's next standby, but that's not going to matter because you summon this when you're planning it to attack for lethal damage. You also have the archetypal extra deck monsters in this deck. They are pretty good, I'm not going to lie to you. There are going to be situations in which you need them. Those situations are going to be kind of few and far between, but I will let you know about them just in case for your own decision making. Paladin, the Ascending Dracoslayer. I just so happen to go Prismatic one of them. When this card is Xyz summoned, you can add a Pendulum monster from your deck to your hand during the end phase of this turn. So it activates when it's summoned, but it resolves on the end phase, which means if this card is no longer on the field, then the effect will still resolve. And then once per turn you can detach a material from this card, special summon a face-up Dracoslayer Pendulum monster from your extra deck, but it cannot be used as an Xyz material for a summon. So the fact that that monster cannot be used as Xyz material is a little bit iffy. We are basically an Xyz deck here. But the other thing that you need to note is that it will summon a Dracoslayer Pendulum monster from the extra deck. So, extra deck, you have a Lecter Pendulum or a Vector Pendulum. They will not count because they're not Dracoslayers, they're Drake Overlords. So you can only really use this effect if you have Master Pendulum or Luster Pendulum. You cannot use this effect unless your extra monster zone is free, because it does special summon from the extra deck, and Pendulum monsters cannot be special summoned from the extra deck except to a zone that a link monster points to or to the extra monster zone. Summon End Phase Search effect is pretty good. It lets you get any particular card you want. Maybe you're going to get a backup scale if you feel like your opponent's going to get rid of one of your scales. Maybe you could get an Archfiend Eccentric, for some versatility. Next up we have Ignister Prominence, the Blasting Dracoslayer. This is kind of the card that this archetype is most famous for. It is Synchro level 8, any tuner, and then a non-tuner Pendulum, so you could use any level 4 tuner you wanted, but of course it's a Pendulum deck, you kind of incentivized to use Pendulum monsters. And the only tuner we have in the deck is Luster Pendulum. It is, however, searchable with Magical Abductor, Magister Paladin, and Draco Face-Off. You'll get it if you need it. Once per turn, you can target a Pendulum monster on the field or one card in the Pendulum zone, so any of your summoned Pendulum monsters or one of the cards in your Pendulum zones. You destroy that card, which means you put it in the extra deck face-up, and then you shuffle one card on the field into the deck. Notice how that shuffles. It does not destroy, it does not bounce back to the hand, it does not put it in the graveyard in any way, and also it does not target. Also, it doesn't matter what kind of card it is, you could get rid of a monster or a back row. So this is the best kind of removal you can possibly hope for, but it gets even better than that, because once per turn you can special summon a Dracoslayer monster from your deck in defense position. So even if you have no other cards to use as material for this guy's first effect, you could just summon a Master Pendulum from your deck and use it as material. The only downside of that, of course, is that if you summon this from the deck, it cannot be used for a Synchro Summon. What if you don't want to use it for a Synchro Summon? You could instead use it for Malevolent Sin, right? Get rid of 2 of your opponent's cards, one with a Malevolent Sin, one with a Ignister Prominence. So this is a great OTK card for your follow-up play, or if you happen to be just going for game on the first turn. Then the last card in the extra deck is Nostra Power, the Mighty Dracoslayer. It requires a Dracoslayer Pendulum monster and any other Pendulum monster, and you special summon it without poly by just tributing the above cards. So you get those 2 on field, summon it by sending those 2 to the extra deck face up. And then Pendulum monster cards in your monster zones and Pendulum zones cannot be destroyed by battle or your opponent's card effects. So if you know that the only thing that your opponent has going for them is destroying things and they don't really have any other kind of removal, you can summon this to just protect your field and be all good. And then of course you can also special summon a Dracoslayer Pendulum monster from your hand or graveyard, but it cannot be used as fusion material. You could use this as just like a follow-up play right, to get back one of your Dracoslayers from a grave that had been used as Xyz material and then detached as Xyz material. Get it back with a Dracoslayer, use it for another summon or something. There is another version of the deck that does not use the dinosaur cards and also does not use the magical abductor. It is totally up to you which version of Dracoslayers you play. I personally feel like this is the best version because it sets up the best turn 1 boards, and turn 2 it is the best at breaking boards. But if you wanted to play a different version, you could play a version that plays a little Performer Pal engine. You can use the Crobat Joker to search for a Radish Horse, Performer Pal Coin Dragon, which will make all of your dragons gain 500 attack and also prevent them from being destroyed by card effects. Great about those is that they are a scale 5 and a scale 3 respectively, both of them searchable by Sculpt Crobat Joker, so they can get you whichever scale you happen to need for the particular situation. Personally feel like this version is better. It has a pretty good way of getting its own scales that it needs anyway, but if you did not like the dinosaur version, you can definitely play this version. It will still do decently. Pretty much the only difference will be that you cannot summon Evil Zord Lagia. A bunch of other extra deck monsters you could play if you so choose. There are a bunch of rank 4s I chose not to play, but you could definitely choose to play. There is the Dark Rebellion Xyz Dragon to help you get over monsters. There's a Diamond Direwolf to help you destroy any card of the field. Gargoyle Samurai can attack twice. Number 27 Dreadnought, after it attacks, can turn into Super Quantal Mech King Great Magnus, which is a great interruption. You could use the Utopia package. I would not recommend it because our life points are usually not going to get that low. And there's the Photon Papal Operative as a free-to-play option. It can detach a material, turn your opponent's defense monster to attack position, then make them lose 600 attack. You know, nice little free-to-play option to help you go for game. There's also these Synchros. The Starter Spark Dragon protects your cards from destruction once per turn. Scrap Dragon to destroy one of your cards, to destroy one of your opponent's cards. Hot Red Dragon Archfiend can destroy your opponent's whole field for the cost of only it being able to attack for the rest of the turn. And Cyber / Harpy Lady, the thing is, if you wanted to play that, I wouldn't be mad at you because Draco Face Off does so happen to be a quick play spell. So if you can summon this and activate Draco Face Off on the opponent's turn, then you would also be able to bounce your opponent's cards with that. But you know, these are little niche options. I personally feel like the extra deck I have here is the best. But at the end of the day, you can build the deck however you choose to do so. I'm not here to tell you how to build your deck. I'm here to show you how to play it. And without further ado, let's just get into the combo tutorial, shall we? First, we have a Magical Abductor and a Draco Face Off. That's the best possible hand I could ask for. So I'm going to activate Magical Abductor first things first. I'm going to activate the field spell. Then I'm going to have 2 counters on my Magical Abductor. I already have 2 dinosaurs, so it doesn't necessarily matter what I'm searching for with the Abductor. I'm going to use the Draco Face Off right off bat. And here's the plan, right? So I'm going to use Master Pendulum, right? And I'm planning to put it there. But if by the random chance that it is put in the extra deck instead of on the field, then I am going to put Special Summoner instead. So I'm going to pick that one and pick this one. And it wants to put Lecter Pendulum on the field. And I don't want it to be in the scale because then I can't activate another scale, so I will special summon it. And then my Master Pendulum will go there. Because of this, regardless of what I did, I was going to be able to activate another scale. If I put this in the extra deck, right, as I did, then I can put this one here. I already have a level 4 on field, it's all good. But if I put this in the scale, then I would be able to destroy itself, activate another one anyway. So I got my scale 3, so I can't put another scale 3 down, right? I've got to put a scale 5. And it is another dinosaur, but that's okay, because I am going to be able to search for another dinosaur anyway. It doesn't matter which dinosaur we get, because they're all the same here. Going to Pendulum Summon 1, 2, 3. And the first Xyz summon we're going to do is Evil Zord Lagia, in case the opponent has any shenanigans. This is always the first thing we do to help protect our other play. So the opponent, I think, because they're playing Yusei, they're most likely a Synchro deck, and Synchro decks do not like Steel Swarm Roach, so I'm going to use my remaining level 4s to go into Steel Swarm Roach, and that way I'll be able to negate any Synchro summons that they have. So they didn't do anything here, which is great for me. I'm just going to be able to essentially go for game here. I think that they didn't do anything despite searching for all the things that they searched for on their opponent's turn with the tuning, because they were afraid of the Logia and of the Steel Swarm Roach negating it. Second, we do have the Abductor and the Draco face-off. Absolutely busted. This 2-card combo is so amazing in this deck. Of course, it gives us every option that we could possibly have. We also just so happen to have a Luster Pendulum, which is great. I would love to activate this. So I'm going to use Draco face-off, of course, get that second counter. You get this one and this one. I'm choosing to special summon it because I already have the Luster Pendulum. It's a great card to put as a scale because of its effect. I'll show you why in a second. I'm just going to activate this to get my third counter, use the third counter. It doesn't matter whether or not I'm getting dinosaurs right now because I already have like access to a bunch of level 4s, and I'm kind of going second play here. Let's just imagine they got a big board. I'm just going to pendulum summon here. 1, 2, 3. So I also have not normal summoned yet, so what I could use is, now that I've pendulum summoned, I can grab myself another magical abductor by using the Luster Pendulum's effect to destroy one of them to get the other one from deck to hand, because it has the same name. Of course, going to go into Malevolent Sin, but if the opponent had like a negate or something, we could go into Giant Hand to prevent them from negating us by chaining to their negate. You know, also if we had dinosaurs, we could do the same thing by going into Logia. So, you know, just for the sake of it, I'm going to pretend they got something to negate my Malevolent Sin. I'm going to use these two. I'm going to use Giant Hand in response to their negate, for example. Going to Malevolent Sin. And what's great is if they got rid of one of our monsters, we could always just summon the other one that we got from searching for it. And as you see, you know, this is a nice little OTK play, and technically speaking, against some boards this deck is not going to be great at breaking the whole field, but it is going to be pretty good in those situations at setting up a board that is at least tough to break. If the opponent's ability to follow up, we are at least going to be able to interrupt them and go for a good long game plan. So, you know, technically speaking, once you understand how this deck works, the combos are very simple, but you do have to understand how it goes first, so make sure you know everything and how it works. But at the end of the day, there's no substitute for experience, so let's just get into the actual ranked replays, shall we? Alright, so the opponent is playing with Infernoids, and what I'm going to try to do here is I'm going to try my best to summon Evils or Logia as soon as possible without them like getting in the way of it, you know what I mean? So you know, gonna get the Abductor, activate this field spell, use Master Pendulum to destroy itself, just give myself another scale. And the reason I'm not using Eccentric here is because I want to negate his trap. If I just try to target it and destroy it, he will chain and his trap will get to resolve. But from here, I get to search for a dinosaur. Now I've got 2 dinosaurs, I get to pendulum summon. 1, 2, 3. And from here I go into Evils or Logia. And now that I've gone into Evils or Logia, if he tries to activate this trap, he's doomed, because I can just negate it immediately. So I'm gonna attack for game, and he has the Chiroid, which is great for him, but I'm not stressed, alright, because he still can't activate his trap. He's just delaying the inevitable. I'm gonna negate it, it's gonna be over. Next turn, of course, he can get himself another trap, but now we're here, I can pendulum summon again, and now I can go into Steel Swarm Roach. And the reason I go into Steel Swarm Roach is even if he can summon his Deviati from grave using the material he's about to summon with the trap, the Roach will be able to then negate it. So first turn I was able to shut off his play, and now that he's had a solid follow-up, I'm going to completely shut off his follow-up with a Steel Swarm Roach. So I'm going to attack him. He knows he's not following up from this, so he just doesn't activate it. And yeah, that's just GG. Alright, so going first here using the face-off to get myself a scale 5. As you might see, I have a scale 3. I do have a scale 5 in hand, but it's a dinosaur. I would rather get another scale 5 so that I can use both dinosaurs as a pendulum material. So I got my scale 5, right? Didn't really matter which one it was, so that's why I picked 2 different ones. Then I got my scale 3. Now I can pendulum summon for 3. 1, 2, 3. And I can go into my Evil Zorlagia, and I will have a Summon Negate or a Spell Trap Negate. He's going to go ahead and use Darkwold Duelings, I don't care about it. He's going to use Chateau, I don't care about it. He's going to normal summon, and now that he's normal summoned, I will negate that because I know that if this gets stopped, he cannot follow up. And yeah, that's pretty much game from here on in. He gets his card back with the field spell, but I already have game. It doesn't matter. Alright, so I'm going first again. I'm going to use the face-off. Technically speaking, I have a full Draco hand, and you know, that might be cool to some people, but I would prefer to have some generic pendulum stuff. I'd like to have some dino stuff. This is kind of a brick for me. Even though I have a face-off, it's a little bit of a brick for me, and I'm just going to show that having a brick is not the end of the world. I'm going to pendulum scale for 3. Going to go into my Abyss Dweller because I feel like the opponent might be playing Salamangreats because they're playing Jesse Anderson, and Abyss Dweller is great against that deck. I'm going to shotgun the Abyss Dweller so that he can't use it. Of course, he is playing Salamangreat, which is great for me. He can no longer use his grave effects. So his Gazelle is forced to send cards that aren't going to be activated in the grave this turn. He still gets some semblance of a play going, which is, you know, great for Salamangreats, but he's not going to be able to do everything that he can do. But yeah. So I'm somewhat bricking against Salamangreats, but I can at least put up an Abyss Dweller, and that's basically what this deck is. You brick, but at least you can put up a rank 4 that can deal with the meta. And pretty much every deck in this particular meta, there's some deck that is like, there's some XCs, there's some rank 4 XCs that's good against it. But yeah, I'm using the fusion here because I know that if he books it, it's got 2950 defense. It's pretty tough to get over. Of course, it also brings back the Master Pendulum from the grave that I used as XC's material for Abyss Dweller, which is great. I do kind of need it back, you know, to get it destroyed, put it back in the extra deck, you know what I mean? So he's going to be going off as Salamangreat players always do. Unfortunately for him though, I don't think he has an out to the Dino Wrestler's defense. That, or I don't think he values it. But he does have back row removal for my entire field. He just doesn't have an out to my big chunky monsters. I'm going to be able to revive my other Master Pendulum. It doesn't matter that he's going to add something back, because I'm planning to do some lethal damage to him. So this is the situation in which the archetypal stuff is good. So I'm going to go into this, right? It'll activate to add something on end phase, but there's not going to be an end phase. But I'm going to use it to revive my tuner here from the extra deck. Normal summon a level 4, go into Ignister Prominence, and attacking into this guy first, right? Because I don't want to put this one in the grave. If I put this one in the grave, he's going to be able to protect himself from destruction just in case. So I'm destroying everything else first before destroying Balings. And that just so happens to be game. Alright, my opponent is playing Code Talkers here. Great for him. Very cool deck. Go ahead and check out our Code Talker video if you want to learn how to play that deck our way. But this guy's playing it a new way. He's playing it with cards that weren't out at the release of that video. So he's going to go for the Alpha, he's going to go for that Decode Talker play. And of course, search for his quick play spell, the Silent Cross Wipe, and also revive to the zone that his Decode Talker points to. He's going to use Code Talker Alive. Now he has 3 back row, which is great for him. I'm going to activate Magical Abductor and Malefic World, which is great for me. I immediately have 1 counter, but he's going to use the Silent Crosswipe to get rid of my Malefic World because he thinks I'm a Malefic deck. Clearly I'm playing the Malefic character, I've got the Malefic field spell. He knows that if a Malefic player doesn't have access to their field spell, they lose the game. Unfortunately for him, I am not playing Malefics, and he has given me a free spell counter. Not that I needed it, because I do have another spell in my hand. I also have other scales, but now I can just use the Fossil Dig, get myself another dino now that I have 2, activate the face-off, just get myself a 5 scale, getting my 2 5 scales right. Having a tuner in the extra deck is also very nice for a pendulum summon, just in case. Now I can search for Master Pendulum in case I need it. Now I got a Pendulum Summon, and this is the chunkiest Pendulum Summon you'll ever see. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's great. So now I can go into Evilzord Dolkia. I will be able to negate whatever back row he has to threaten me. So he's going to use Compulsory Evacuation Device. I'm going to negate it on force, and he's going to scoop it up. So we're going second against our opponent's cubic deck. Let me know if you guys want to see a cubic deck for yourself, but he's going to get his Crimson Nova off. He's going to be able to summon it turn 1. And the great thing about Crimson Nova is that it is unaffected by other monsters' activated effects whose original attack is 3000 or less. Unfortunately for me, every single card, every single monster in my deck is 3000 attack or less. So I won't be able to out this card. I won't be able to beat over it either. So I'm just going to have to do my best, but I don't give up. As a duelist, don't give up until you absolutely know that there's a way to defeat. Crimson Nova also just so happens to have the effect that during your end phase, each player takes 1500 damage. So all I have to do is to make it so that if he attacks me with his Crimson Nova, which can attack me multiple times, it can attack all of my monsters. If I can make it so that after he attacks me, I have 1500 or more attack, 1500 or more life, I will survive next turn. But if he has 1500 or less life when he activates that effect, he will lose. So that's my plan. My plan is to do as much possible to his Duza as possible to make it so that he will have less than 1500 life points. I do have my tuner because of the Draco face-off. If the Draco face-off didn't summon it, it would have put it in my extra deck. You know, it either summons it or puts it in my extra deck, so I'm getting that tuner either way. So I'm going to go into this one, which will negate whatever back row he has to threaten me, and I'll have this one to remove the other one. And I'm going to do that first. Summon one from deck, use that as material to get rid of one of his back row. And if he uses that other back row, I can just negate it with Evilzord Dolkia. So then I'll use this one because it has higher attack to attack into this one. He activates his trap. Doesn't matter what it does, I'm just going to negate it. And now you might see he has less than 1500 life, so he has to win. He has to kill me this turn or he loses. Unfortunately for him, he's not able to do that. As you're about to see, he's able to get nearly there, right? But I have 1750, which brings me down to 250, and he will kill himself. So, you know, if you think about it, you can beat unbeatable situations. But yeah, man, that's pretty much how you play Dracoslayers. It's a very fun Pendulum deck, to be honest with you. Being able to negate things with Dolkia, being able to shut people completely down with your rank 4s is a very fun thing to do. I will say the one weakness is that if your opponent has a lot of monsters on the field that don't do anything, this isn't going to be able to get rid of all of them. It's generally a interruption based deck rather than a removal based deck. But you know, you're generally going to be able to win those games anyway. This is not an OTK deck necessarily. But you know, if you guys like this deck, be sure to let me know in the comments. Like the video if you like the video, share with a friend who might like Dracoslayers, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and we'll see you next time.